Tonight on the Daily Debrief, a dentist shot dead in Texas. The hitman is on trial.
He was supposed to be paid in drugs and money.
Friends say this woman was behind it.
She was like obsessed with him.
But authorities say this man pulled the trigger.
I opened the door and it's when she...
As friends and family describe the anguish.
And I said, no, not Kendra.
Plus, she was sentenced for kidnapping a woman who disappeared 5 years ago.
I had nothing to do with her disappearance.
Why is the victim's father facing punishment? That's tonight on the Daily Debrief for Wednesday, October 24th. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Debrief. Testimony in a Texas death penalty trial entered its second day today, with the jury hearing a chilling interrogation of a defendant who police say was paid to pull the trigger. Dallas area dentist Kendra Hatcher died in that September 2015 ambush. Authorities say Hatcher was dating this man, Ricardo Paniagua. The problem, he had a jealous ex-girlfriend. That ex-girlfriend was Brenda Delgado, and authorities believe she was the mastermind who hired this defendant, Christopher Love, to rob and kill Kendra Hatcher. Crystal Cortez admitted to being the getaway driver. She pleaded guilty and testified against Love. We'll look at her testimony in a moment. First, though, after claiming time and time again that he had no connection to Kendra Hatcher's death, the defendant acted out the crime in a recorded interrogation.
So she's sitting right here. I opened the door. She was getting her stuff out when I was in there. She was getting her door was open. Her door's open. Her door was cracked. Her door was cracked. So she's sitting here wrapping her stuff up. Yeah. And what happened? I opened the door and it's when she jumps up and starts pulling her stuff. Yeah. You trying to reach up here and just grab her? I ain't have a chance to reach because I opened the door. As soon as I opened the door, she seen me and started getting her stuff. She was screaming. Mm-hmm. So I shifted my way this way. I slammed the door and just give me this. I turned around because I heard the truck. I was going to go back to the truck. When I turned around, the truck was bagging her right there. So I just opened the door, threw that shit in there, and I was getting in. I got shot.
The boyfriend in this mess had no clue what his jealous ex was plotting. He told the jury about trying to find his girlfriend amid a flurry of police activity.
I was brought to the front desk and I was asked if I can get buzzed up to Kendra's apartment. And then the concierge, John, he held up his hand and he said, "Hold on." And that's the moment when everything just kind of started coming together, as far as, you know, the police vehicles not being able to get a hold of her. I mean, now I'm thinking worst case scenarios, and I'm just repeating myself, you know, where's Kendra? Where's Kendra? I need to see her, you know, please, you know, buzz me up to her apartment. I was texting her. I said, you know, they're not letting me up to your apartment. Please let me in. And then that's when they brought me to the back area of the concierge front desk, and a team of investigators and police officers were there, and the concierge, it was John. He was the one that actually, because I kept asking repeatedly, you know, is Kendra okay? Is Kendra okay? Is she still? And then I became even more specific. I said, is she still alive? And John said, no, I'm sorry, Kendra passed.
From there, the boyfriend testified that he was in touch with his ex because they shared a joint phone account, but their conversation was limited.
I had made reference to that I was in a relationship and that it was going well, but I never gave any localizing nomenclature.
Do you have any reason to believe that Kendra and Brenda Delgado ever spoke to each other?
No.
Several friends testified that the jealous ex-girlfriend, the alleged mastermind of this murder-for-hire plot, was obsessed.
Did Brenda ever talk to you about a guy?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes, Ricky, yes.
Okay. How often did she talk to you about Ricky?
All the time. She was like obsessed with him all the time.
fact, were there times that you didn't want to come back to the apartment because you didn't want to listen to her talk about it?
Yes, because she was like obsessing, possessive all the time about him, wanting to know about him all the time. She was really controlling as well.
Jennifer, at some point, Brenda brings you into a plan that she has involving a woman by the name of Kendra Hatcher.
Yes, sir.
What was that plan?
Your Honor, object, this is hearsay.
What was that subject?
She was involved in a triangle.
When you say involved in a triangle, what do you mean by that?
Meaning she was upset in regards to her ex-boyfriend and a current girlfriend. And I guess the current girlfriend of the ex-boyfriend was Hatcher, and the current boyfriend was named Mr. Paniawa.
And she had an issue with that?
Correct.
Did you talk to her about that?
Yes, I did.
And what advice did you try and impart to her?
I said I want nothing to do with that. I said if she took my advice, she should just leave it alone. Whatever she's thinking, just to drop it.
And when you say whatever she's thinking, drop it, was there something in particular that she asked you that made you give her that answer?
Yes. She asked me if I need somebody that can hurt Paniawa and Miss Hatcher. And I said, stop. I don't want to hear anything else you have to say. I said, if we're friends, we're friends. Don't involve me.
Here now with some analysis on this case is Law and Crime senior editor and former New York City prosecutor Ronn Blitzer. Also joining us is criminal defense attorney Adam Sostrin from California. Ron, let me start with you. It seems from my perspective, everybody's testifying against this guy. He is going down here.
Yes, that is definitely my estimation also. You have a mountain of evidence against him. We watched video where he's talking about committing the crime. He had given a story about how this was really just meant to be a robbery. But, there was also testimony from one of the accomplices, the getaway driver, who, had originally backed up that story and then cut a deal with prosecutors and said, no, this was supposed to be a murder from the beginning.
And we're going to listen to that testimony in just a couple of seconds. Adam, let me ask you this. When you do criminal defense work, this is a death penalty case. Usually in cases like this, the defense is more worried about the penalty than the conviction in a case with evidence that's this strong. Do you agree that that's probably the tactic here?
I absolutely agree. The point is to preserve your client's life, not to allow his death, and confronted with statements from multiple witnesses against him, what do you have really? Sometimes it's just to save him, allow him to live.
Yeah, look, let's move along now to some testimony from Crystal Cortez, who admitted to her role in that murder-for-hire plot.
Were you an integral part of the planning of this offense?
Yes, I was.
Were there ideas or things about how this should happen that were your ideas?
Yes.
Such as?
Putting the gloves on, finding the weapon, pretty much following Kendra Hatcher. Probably 2 weeks after I met Brenda, we started planning this murder. We would follow Miss Kendra. We would stake out her apartment. We would sit in the parking garage. We would follow her from her job to her house. We pretty much just found out her daily routine. One of the plans were to inject her with the needle. Another plan was to shoot her directly, and another plan was to kidnap her.
And did Mr. Love have a plan that he preferred?
He pretty much said that it would be easier just to kill her with the gun.
There, Crystal Cortez, the co-defendant, described a practice run of the murder. She testified that the defendant expected payment in return for making the job look like a robbery gone bad.
There was no disagreement on how much he was supposed to be paid. He was supposed to be paid in drugs and money.
Do you remember the specific amounts of drugs and money?
I remember that we purchased Kush and cocaine for him, and she paid him in cash, but I don't remember the amounts.
Do you remember him agreeing to those payments?
Yes, sir. It was planned to be a murder and to look like a robbery gone bad. He was supposed to take her belongings and kill her at the same time.
What kind of belongings?
Purse, cell phone, if possible, anything that was in the car.
Calm and collected, doesn't it, when it's coming from the co-defendant? But a witness who was there for the shooting describes it as commotion.
Once we came out, just immediately you heard screaming, but it didn't sound like human. It sounded more like an animal. So obviously we're going to be looking over in that direction, and all you hear is pop, pop, which is 2 shots, and then it's just quiet. So once we heard those 2 pops, we ran to our vehicle, got in the car. By that time, the vehicle that was up top of the parking lot, it came down, took a left, and then went back around. By that time, it got behind us. We pulled out, and go ahead. Sorry.
Let's break that down a little bit. So, as you exit the elevator doors, you hear a gunshot.
No, we hear screaming. That's the first thing. That's the first thing.
And when you say it didn't sound like human screaming, what?
Like she was out of breath, basically. Like she was that scared to where she couldn't really scream, where she was out of breath, basically.
And then the next sounds you hear, did you immediately recognize those to be gunshots?
Oh, yeah, immediately, because it's 2 pops. What else could that be in a parking garage?
And what's your response to hearing those gunshots?
Straight to the car.
And from there, sadness. Not long later, the victim's mother waited in anguish while family members gathered to deliver the difficult news.
My husband, he had to drive 2 hours to get home that night. And Jamie wouldn't tell me, and Jeff wouldn't tell me anything. And I thought at first it was Dave, but they're like, no, Mom, just sit here until Dave gets here. And so when my husband got there, he came in the door, and Jamie had me on the couch, and she said, Mom, it's Kendra. And I said, no, not Kendra. And they said she was shot. And I'm like, what? What do you mean she shot? And Jamie said she didn't make it. And that's all I really remember. I remember that so well.
Back now to Ronn Blitzer and Adam Sostrin. Ron, again to you first here. This is heartbreaking, but the bottom line is prosecutors have a cooperating witness, a cooperating defendant who's saying, hey, look, I'll take a 35-year sentence in return for ratting out the co-conspirators. Crystal Cortez is 27 now. She'll be about 62 when she gets out of prison. I can't remember a case in my memory where the premeditation is as clear-cut as it is here.
Oh, absolutely. And, talk about a co-defendant taking a plea deal here. A lot of times defense attorneys try to use that against them and say, oh, well, she's just lying to get a sweet deal. No, she still pleaded guilty to murder. All she did was save her life and shave, some time off of her prison sentence. She's still going away for a very long time.
A very long time. Adam, look, you're probably sitting here saying, look, why did this defendant have to act out the crime in his interrogation? Why didn't he just stay silent?
Right. It's absolutely incredible. And certainly it's an example of why it's important to have your attorney with you. Of course, when there are deals that are made, when there are deals that are proffers that are made to the prosecutors, you kind of let everything out. You waive all that, and you give a description of what happened, and then they make a decision regarding what they're going to do with you. And hopefully it's for the best, and that's why you do everything and you say everything.
But when you're in the midst of this stage of the trial, Adam, as a criminal defense attorney, what can you do? I know that in some of these instances, the defense just didn't even cross-examine some of the witnesses. I can't imagine the defense really getting much out of many of them that would in any way be helpful for the defense.
There's not much they can do. The hope is that you rely on her initial story. You attempt to poke holes in a statement that she makes when she's testifying that doesn't seem entirely accurate. You try to turn it into a felony murder. It's still a murder. It's just a murder that's committed during the course of a felony. The hope was that it would be a robbery and somebody died. And you hope that way you don't get the death penalty. Other than that, there are no other cards that the defense attorney has.
A tough case for the defense. Adam, I know we'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. But first, still ahead here on the Daily Debrief, updates in cases in two separate states where defendants with connections to law enforcement are themselves facing murder charges. And later on today, despite a conviction, we have not heard the last in the case of a South Carolina woman who jurors agreed kidnapped her husband's lover. Find out why the judge is punishing the victim's father when we return on the Daily Debrief. Tonight in two criminal trials involving former members of law enforcement.
You want me to hit you again? Stop right now!
That chokehold by the husband of a former sheriff's deputy led to the death of the man on the ground. Prosecutors say that man you saw right there, Terry Thompson, held the victim down in the parking lot of a Denny's restaurant. The chokehold left this man, 24-year-old John Hernandez, in a coma. He died when his family took him off life support. Thompson's attorneys say he acted in self-defense. Former Michigan State Trooper Mark Besner is on trial over the taser death of a teenager. Prosecutors are seeking second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter charges. 15-year-old Damon Grimes was riding an ATV when officers chased him and tased him. The shock caused Grimes to crash into a truck. The defense says Besner fired because he feared Grimes would pull out a weapon. For more incidents now making headlines, here is Anthony Velez.
Here are today's top crime stories trending on LawandCrime.com and across the country. A judge in Washington state played the role of court officer and chased down two handcuffed inmates who made a run for sweet freedom in his courtroom, and it was caught on camera. The inmates, 22-year-old Tanner Jacobson and 28-year-old Cody Howard, saw an opportunity to escape and went for it. That's when Judge R.W. Buzzard surprised everyone in the gallery and leapt into action, chasing down the fleeing inmates. Buzzard was able to apprehend Howard before he exited the building. Jacobson was caught by officers a few blocks away. Both men now face a charge of second-degree escape. A convicted murderer in Illinois is being denied a retrial even though his identical twin brother allegedly confessed to the killing. 40-year-old Kevin Dugar is serving a 54-year sentence after a 2005 conviction for shooting at a group of rival gang members in Chicago, killing one person. 11 years after his conviction, Dugar's twin brother, Carl Smith, reportedly confessed to the killing, prompting the request for a retrial. Smith is currently serving a 99-year sentence for his role in an armed home invasion which left a 6-year-old dead in 2008. Prosecutors argued Smith's confession was incredible since he had nothing to lose from coming forward for his brother, and the judge agreed.
What is she doing?
She's trying to steal your car.
Authorities in Oklahoma released body cam footage of an incident where a suspected car thief in handcuffs managed to steal a cop car in front of several officers. 37-year-old Angie Frost was taken into custody for suspicion of driving a stolen car by officers in Tulsa, who made the ill-advised move of placing the alleged car thief in the front seat of a patrol car.
What is she doing?
She's trying to steal your car. Right there.
I told you guys I didn't steal that car.
You just stole a police car.
Now I'm going to jail for over.
You stole a police car in front of 3 police officers.
Frost pleaded guilty to larceny and other charges and is currently serving a 3-year prison sentence. Those were today's top crime stories. I'm Anthony Velez for the Daily Debrief.
Back to court now, where the father of a South Carolina kidnapping victim was punished by a judge today in a case we've been following for more than a week. Jurors yesterday convicted Tammy Moorer of working with her husband Sidney to kidnap Heather Elvis. Several witnesses testified that an affair between Sidney Moorer and Heather Elvis may have resulted in Heather Elvis becoming pregnant. Elvis has never been seen or heard from since the date of the alleged kidnapping. Sentenced for contempt of court. Terry Elvis must choose between a 30-day jail term or a $400 fine for calling Tammy Moorer's defense attorney, quote, lowlife and other threatening names during a break in the trial's early days. The father's punishment came one day after Tammy Moorer herself went down fighting.
I was never happy with my representation. I wanted different attorneys. I don't think they fought for me. They missed deadlines with you. I know that Greg was sent by Jimmy Richardson's solicitor. I never felt comfortable with them, and I never had a way out. There was a lot I wanted brought to the table that showed the truth in this courtroom, and had I not had the things I did have, we would never found like the T-Mobile discrepancy and that sort of thing. I felt like I had to do my own trial, and I'm not an attorney. I don't know how to do these things, and I just don't think I had a fair advantage over any of this. I'm a mom to 4 kids because I have an extra one right now that I'm looking out for. They don't have anybody else. They don't live in this state. We had to leave this state because of harassment. They don't have anybody else to care for them, and they need their mom. And I don't know what else to say to you. I am Heather's #1 advocate. I want to know what happened to Heather, probably just as much as her parents do. I want to know what happened to her. I know I had nothing to do with her disappearance. I've never met her. I've never seen her in person. And the truth is in the boxes. The truth is in discovery. And they've not even shown me 90% of that. Where Heather is, they know where Heather is by that discovery. And it just has not been brought to court. I wanted it brought to court in light. I want to know what happened too. And they need me. I feel like I'm begging for my life for something that I didn't do, that I didn't have anything to do with. And I wish that there was just a way to show you everything.
No responsibility there out of Tammy Moore. The final sentence, 30 years in prison. Ronn Blitzer, look, the dad got punished now because under South Carolina law, he has a legal right to be present at a trial where a family member is a victim. I'm assuming that's why the contempt charge did not happen earlier. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would imagine so. The incident involving him and one of Tammy Moore's attorneys was said to have happened way early in the trial, but it didn't come up until now after it ended.
You know, Tammy Moore hugging relatives before being let off in handcuffs there. Look, she's showing no remorse here. She's fighting with her attorney. She's going down in front of the judge. No responsibility.
No, not at all. She threw her defense team under the bus here. And, you know, it's not uncommon for defendants, after being convicted, to claim ineffective assistance of counsel. They'll appeal, they'll say, and sometimes they'll win. But here, she really just has herself to blame.
That's all the time we have on the Daily Debrief. Ronn Blitzer, Adam Sostrin, appreciate your insight today. A reminder, the Law and Crime Network will be streaming a lot of the trials we talked about here today. This is Aaron Keller, and for all of us at the Debrief, have a good evening.